everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's on the Tube, or welcome back. If this is your ninth Nancy Drew Season 3 episode review. We made it to the winter finale, everyone. I'm a little tired because it's been a long day for me. I'm recording this after the episode wrapped, airing on TV, as always. I also had to do the Walker review earlier, so I'm a little bit tired out, but I'm gonna do my best to kind of, power through, since, I got a lot to do. This weekend, of course, obviously Christmas prep and just everything I gotta do. So it's a lot. But this week on Nancy Drew, we kind of got more like, this wasn't like the big, like normally these winter finale, they're like this very big game changer moment, so you can leave speculating until we come back in the next year with new episodes. That's normally how it is. But this episode, you don't really get that per se. It's more like character revelations and twist more than along like that. There's this this big confrontation, this big moment that changes the season on its heel. There isn't anything like that, to be honest with you. But what I will give credit with this episode is that they definitely tee things up in very different directions and very different ways they're going to take when we do come back next year with the second half. And all I can say is that I'm very eager to see what they have up their sleeves now going into this this second half, and where do certain characters, certain relationships lie, since we're kind of in this new avenue per se. It's all very well different, and honestly, again, I was very curious to see how they were going to handle everything from the beginning. Now we're halfway through, I'm already seeing okay, yeah, you can make this work. It's working out. I have faith. The writers always do better than me, in my opinion. But regardless of that, let's go for the Butcher recap and talk about this week's episode of Nancy Drew. So we begin with, I don't know, because here's the thing. I was recording the Walker review, and I was 2 minutes into the episode, and I didn't pay attention because I was wrapping up the Walker review. So I apologize if I missed whatever happened. But whatever they did last week in terms of figuring out more about the Ice Heart monster, it did help out, since the new hotshot detective's kind of more inclined to work with Nancy faster than Tamora ever did. So he's already on board, already trying to really help out Nancy. And it's nice for Nancy to have her latent skills as an amateur detective with the actual investigators. So it works out very well for them to team up. And it kind of causes a little bit of a jealousy for Ace, since this episode, mostly the three of them were paired up, while the rest were kind of dealing with another thing. It was kind of weird. I felt sorry for Ace, because Ace, and I can definitely feel an Ace, here's the girl you like with some new guy, and they're really, really working well, and you're kind of feeling a little bit left out, that that there's possibly a better match out there for the other person, and you're kind of deciding if you should accept it or not. So I'm gonna drink some tea, because I have a feeling this is gonna help me out. I've been having jasmine tea for the last month. I switched to lemon. It's good. Anyway, yeah. So meanwhile, while they're dealing with that, they're trying to figure out, because they found this halves of keys. Half of a key, so they're trying to look for the other half of the key. So they just have this inclination that we need to go back into the cellar. We need to go back into the basement and kind of figure out, is there any sort of clue they could find here that they didn't get to explore previously. Ace was supposed to keep on guard, but he's a very horrible guard, and he gets knocked out by a horseshoe, ironically. So Nancy and the hotshot detective are stuck down in the basement below, for better or for worse reasons. Nick, George, and first of all, Nick and George finally have their proper reunion, because last episode, Nick was mostly distracted with the return of his old friend and catching up and kind of figuring out everything he needs to know. And now with Nancy and Ace being kind of locked off on the real supernatural stuff, it's only best send George on hand for this other, supposedly it seems like a regular mystery, and she's just there to get their help. But before they can go even deeper into what they need to know about this case, George finally drops the news to Nick that, yeah, I'm good. Odette's gone. I have a full-ish lifespan again, and I'm ready to actually live a long and full life with them. And they get into a brief argument, since George knew about the news at least 48 hours before she told Nick, and then Nick was off on his impromptu time away, and then like even though like as soon as like George found him, he like it's all sorts of things. They eventually do make up. They literally make up and make up and make up, make out and make up. That's the terminology I was gonna say. So Nick's friend fills them in on like what her matter is. So she had a boyfriend for a year. Pretty very not well off person. He's only like I think they're the same age, but I think he has rich connections since he has a boat. I don't know what I said like that. A boat. And so basically she's the suspect of a murder investigation since when they were on this boat. I forgot who it was. I think it was a third person. They found his body in the back of the boat, like already dead, and she's just considering that it's a boat, so it's a very isolated environment. There's only so many possibilities you can do because you're just stranded out in sea. So the police are just going to assume that unofficially right now she is a murder suspect, but right now she hasn't been charged in anything or being suspected of anything yet. But it's only a matter of time, and she's there because she heard of Nancy Drew and she heard of everything that George went through. That she feels like maybe this is me. I'm the next George. No pun intended. That she's possessed and she has something inside of her that's taking her over, and that's why she is going to write off the murder. They're like, I got possessed, so it wasn't me. But the thing is that even she has to realize, like, brah, you're in Horseshoe Bay is like, okay, fine. That's maybe a tolerable explanation. A little bit of a high feat nowadays, but still very tolerable. But for the rest of the world, like, they're like, you're crazy. Like, no, they're not going to think like that. So sadly, she's kind of like really up the wagon here, but since Nancy's kind of off it, Bess kind of plays Nancy Drew a little bit while George and Nick kind of play the supporters going like, oh no, we believe you. Like, we're going to find all the evidence we can to kind of prove your innocence. But the more they keep digging into it, it becomes really more difficult because like they find photos of them arguing, audio files, stories of injuries, and there's a lot of negative evidence against her. It's not really panning out, but of course Nick, seeing that she's his friend and, he wants to be there for her. And then George obviously being the supporting fiance. They're still on her team, but the problem is it's just getting really hard to realize that Bess obviously is the only one like actually thinking sane for once. Well, for the moment. And she thinks like, no, she's just using us. Like she's going to find a way to like get the evidence somehow and then, get off scot-free, that sort of thing. But slowly but surely, eventually it just becomes to the point where like Bess says, no, she's the murderer. Like we have to report her in. We need to turn her in because, she killed them. Like it's fairly simple. And then she just up and leaves. And I'm thinking like, she probably got mad at Bess and probably stormed off to clear her head. But no, she actually left her phone, her jacket, her wallet, everything. So like, she's not her. Like something happened to her, so they run outside. They try looking for her, and they find her back of the claw, jumping over the Bowie lines, whatever you want to call the divider between the ground and the sea or the ocean. So Nick dives in the freaking ice cold ass water. Like this is brisk fall, early winter for them. I'm like, brah, these guys should have been dead. Well, he should have been dead. But he lived, he got her out, and she kind of gets knocked back out to fully consciousness. Meanwhile, speaking of unconsciousness, Ace is still unconscious while Nancy and the hotshot detective decide to make best of their situation of trying to explore the catacombs, trying to find something, and Nancy's kind of at her wit's end because like they're really not finding anything at all. So, and she's kind of like having that mental breakdown of like the town is depending on me to solve this case. I need to figure this out right here, right now, yesterday, and we have no leads, we have no clues here, and we're trapped down here. So I don't know what we're gonna do. And the hot detective is like, you know what? Sometimes in investigations, you get to these moments where like there really isn't anything you can do. All you can really do right now is just sit tight, stand by, and just wait. And plus they're in a freezing catacomb, so they have no choice but to huddle up for warmth, which is like, again, not Ace's best day right now for him, because eventually he does wake up, but then he starts getting these like weird in and outs in the radios, like someone's trying to communicate with him, but it's not really coming through fully, so he doesn't know really what to do. I don't know how he gets down there. He does get down there to kind of get them out. And this is kind of like the moment where like the detective and Nancy are really bonding. They're really becoming they're understanding each other, not in a romantic sense, because I obviously knew Nancy does have feelings for him, and I'm pretty sure she does for Ace. But right now it's just you're stuck in the moment, so it's like you kind of like have no choice but to focus on him, and so it's not really helping anyone's case. But eventually they do find the other half of the key, so they realize this is it. We have something, and eventually they do re meet up with Ace. So they head off, and then eventually I believe they do get paired up with the other, because they were making like this is something I must have skipped over in last week's stories. Not story, last week's episode, where about the copperhead that it was another one. It was a human at one point. It made some sort of like love bond with someone else, and she split her soul like Voldemort into 4 pieces, and they just assume the keys are the 4 totems, and until that the copperhead can kill 2 more victims. So they're still in the race of the clock, or something like that. I really don't know. Hopefully the return next time will kind of like alleviate my head a little bit, hopefully. Also, I forgot to mention, George and Ace have actually considered to elope because they don't want to wait any longer for their wedding. They think like this is it. We can get started on our new lives right here, right now, today. So let's do it. So they do meet up with Nancy and Ace again, the whole Drew crew again. The only moment they are, sadly, in this episode. And hopefully, well, not hopefully, like, I'm sadly for a while. Yeah, where do we go? I forgot. But, oh, yeah. No, I remember that. Okay, so, they're finding more clues, via some deleted stories and snaps, because, that's the only real way they have. But eventually they do find out, because even though they have another piece of evidence against her, they do find out that apparently she has this sort of like PTSD trauma from when Nick accidentally the thing that happened to him back in the like before the show started, like that when she was there, she kind of developed like this like emergency response where she just blacks out and kind of like, I don't know what happens to her, like she just blacks out and like whatever happens, and I guess she accidentally pushed him. But right now she got some recommendations for some good psychiatric places in Florida for her to explore and kind of like get the help she needs. And, it is what it is for her. So I forgot if they ever really decided like if she was fully guilty or not, but I think she's going to get the help she needs so she can start to move forward with her life. And hopefully that'll be the case. They do all split up again. I think Nick's back at not Nick, Ace is back in the Historic Society to fix the key up, and he's with Bess, and everyone's starting to figure out like, yeah, Ace does have some feelings for Nancy, and they want him to like go in and like explore it before it becomes too late. And Ace is still like on the fence about it, but then Bess gives him the push, like, no, go for it, like actually do this, go. So I believe, yeah, so the text just says like meet me at the loft or meet me at the Historic Society back at 8:00 to talk. So he sends that. Nancy's with the investigator trying to get some more information about the whole case, since they have to now reevaluate things from a different point of view. Nick and George head off to the courthouse to get married. At first, everything was locked up, so they felt like this was just a sign from the universe that, hey, you shouldn't get married now. Like, you should like actually have a proper wedding or wait another time. But George is like, nah, man. Now, after the day we had, after everything we've been through, we're getting married today, right now. And I wish I had my camera on. I really do. Also, yeah, I forgot to mention, the camera is still, the charger's still busted, so I can't charge the camera right now. So that's why this is only audio based. But anyway, George is like, right now we have to get married. But thankfully I want to say one of the judges comes out like, yeah, don't worry, like I'm still here, like I'm the only one on staff today. I'm like, Jesus Christ, is Horseshoe Bay really that understaffed that like is every employer in like Horseshoe Bay like just understaffed? Like we need to get these kids grown up so they can like start working and working for them. At least that's my opinion on the matter. So where do we, yeah, so they head in and they're about to do the usual vows and I do's, but, they back out last minute to kind of really talk about it. Cause like, the whole reason like they wanted to get married back last season was because, yeah, they love each other, but there's also that, inclination that, that, time wasn't on their side when that proposal was being asked, because George did have like a half in lifespan. She only had like, I think, what, 10 years left to live. Um, so she didn't really have much time to go for. So it's like, yeah, let's get married now, maybe have some kids, and, like get them ready for, like, when it's time to go, it's time to go. But that was the plan back then. But then now that, a lot has happened, more about Nick has come out. George has had their lifespan restored mostly to an extent. Time isn't really something they need to rush about anymore. And, they're both going to stay in Horseshoe Bay for the foreseeable future. So there is no rush for them to like really get married, because like there'll be plenty of time to do that down the line. And, Nick realizes that after everything he's just seen out of his friend today, that he's still got some things to work through about, his past trauma, and, that he needs to get that figured out before he can get married to George and be an actual partner to her. So they both agree to mutually end the engagement, but they both know that down the line there will be an opportunity to get properly married, but that isn't something that's gonna happen anytime soon, because they need the time. Like, George wants to explore more. She wants to, like, live a decent single life. Yeah. So they both agreed. George gives up gives up the ring, and she makes the promise to him, like, someday I want you to ask me again. And yeah. So that's what the case will be for that. And yeah, so and they leave it out there. They hug, and they're like, yeah, it's not quite clear if they're still in a relationship. I think it's kind of more along the lines like, this is a proposal to get proposed again later on, but they still have lives to explore. That will definitely come into play next time, because that leads to a lot of questions about, like, you're gonna be together, but you're not together. Like, what does that even mean? Where does the area fall for that? And that'll be a very interesting direction for them to take in the second half. Nancy does eventually finish up her work with the detective, and she gets Ace's text pretty late, so she decides to head out to the Historic Society. Bess, so meanwhile, Bess kind of like, I don't know why, she heads over to Temperance's place for some reason, and she accidentally stumbles on the letters that Temperance was writing to her daughter off screen. And yeah, so she figures that out. It was fairly quick, the revelation, like, it was really quick. She tries to take pictures of them, but the pictures come out blurry as hell. She tries to take the most recent letter as proof, but then once she was starting to leave the fortress, it causes her to the letter to burn up, and she's like, what do? I need evidence. So she decides to kind of just send Temperance a message of like, hey, let's go meet up for breakfast tomorrow and like talk about things. Under what ruse, what guise, I don't know, but they leave it off there. Ace successfully finishes to fix the lock, and once he turns the key, well, no, he doesn't fix that. He fixes the key first, and then when he opens the lock, the filters of the screen change, and things kind of turn away, and yeah, so that's kind of like how it's left off to be. So so we kind of go back to like this this kind of like weird world where like Nancy shows up, but then they and at first Ace tries to talk to her, but Nancy's not really responding. Then he just heads over to Nancy's house, and he sees Amanda, the Historic Society, Hannah. He sees Hannah next to her. It's like, where have you been? Like, why are you here? And she's like, oh, you can see me? And Nancy opens the door, but she doesn't see both of them, and she closes up. So it turns out they went into like this split dimension where like it parallels our world, but they're not they're just not seen by anyone in our actual world, meaning that they went into like a parallel reality. Well, not really reality, more like a parallel dimension. So now they're stuck here. No one knows where the fuck they are, how to get there. So it's like, it's the Flash season 6 all over again. So I'm like, that's kind of how we leave things off there. And that's where we end off the first half of Nancy Drew season 3. I found this to be very entertaining. I found this to be very insightful for like what the story is going to be. It wasn't this big, like really big cliffhanger because we never really. I don't know what happened last, like season one wise, because like season one was like the only time we had a regular like mid-season finale to like a regular season return. I don't remember how that went out to be honest with you. It's been so long since we did that. But I will say about that is it's for this time around, I very much liked it that they just focused on the characters more, pushing them in like interesting points where like you're just left questioning what string are they going to pull on when we do come back in January, and like how do we continue these stories and these developments. And with everything in a season 3 for any CW show, it's like, how do we break the characters more so when we do get to a season 4, how do we reinvent the formula? That's what I'm more interested about, to be honest with you. I really hope Ace doesn't stay too long away, but I don't want him to like, I really hate it when like just in general where shows like they introduce like this cool concept, but it's always the matter of like they do it too short or they do it too long. I think too short, it's like, for example, like Flash, like I keep mentioning this, for example, like Flashpoint was only one episode, should have been a few episodes to at least signify the point of the matter and also the deeper meaning of it. And then for ironically, the comparison I made with the Mirror Master stuff with the Mirror Dimension, I think they personally went for that well too long than the two than necessary. So here, I hope Ace doesn't come back right away, but I hope he doesn't stay too long because there's just a lot for him and Nancy to explore. And George and Ace, I'm very interested. Well, George and Nick, I'm excited to see where they're going to go next. How closer is Beth going to go to like trying to go against Tempest, and how is that going to backfire on her? And yeah, Nancy's just stuck in the middle. Like always, living the dream. So I think that's going to do it for me tonight, everyone. I'm going to give this episode 2 thumbs up. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this winter finale. Let me know in the comments below, what did you think of this week's episode of Nancy Drew? I'd like to talk to you down below. But yeah. So if you're unaware, this has been What's Up the Tube, reviewing every episode in the 3rd season of Nancy Drew. If you want to know what we're doing normally on What's Up the Tube besides our Nancy Drew reviews, we're currently doing the Rookie Season 4 episode reviews each and every Monday mornings after a brand episode on Sunday nights on ABC or on Hulu the next day. And we're also doing Walker Season 2 episode reviews each and every Fridays after a brand episode on Thursday nights on the CW or free the next day on the CW app. But if you don't care about Nancy Drew, we will be back in January for brand new episode reviews starting on January 13th, I want to say. I believe we come back on the 13th, yeah, for the review, but 12th of the show. I'm excited for that. It's going to be fun. Fun old time. There'll be, of course, your usual save the channels, your usual rigmarole stuff. There's a Doctor Who every series review comes back after we're done with Rookie, so stay tuned for that too if you're going to be bored during the break. But yeah. Again, this has been What's on the Tube from ActionX. Please subscribe to us on youtube.com/ActionX videos. Ring that bell for notification when our next episode review is live. Like, favorite, share this review if you want to, but it helps us get it out there to other members of the Drew crew who have yet to discover us. Helps us beat out that YouTube algorithm that hates me ever so much in life, and as well as sharing us for free here on the interwebs. And please follow us on social media to stay up to date with any sort of updates we might have for the channel. But until then, stay safe out there, be good to each other, enjoy your holiday. But until then, peace out.